Or tell him Arash Madani sent you. What the hell? Hey, you're looking fresh, dude. What's going on today, Arash?
I didn't know I was supposed to wear my Winnipeg gear today, Roddy.
The sports doctor did earlier, so we got it. We got. It's more fun, man. It's more fun this time of year when you can do this kind of stuff. Yeah, you all fired up for division final weekend?
Yeah, Look, I know in the standings they were the top 4 teams. They probably are the top 4 teams this year in the league, and here we go. I think there's so much riding on these games for these two teams, but especially in the East, you think about how last year's final went down at BMO and Chad Kelly and Marc-Antoine Dequoy, and how it all fell apart for the Argos. I'm very intrigued in that one to get things going tomorrow.
Me too. You don't like to make predictions, though, do you? The storylines are great.
They are, and here's the other thing, Rod. And I think this is what's so interesting is, and I know Fajardo's your guy. Knowing that I was coming on your show today, I asked around to people I know in the league, and I'm just like, okay, what do the Argos have to do to win? Not on defense, not what do they have to do to win? And basically, the first comment, which is kind of connected, was effectively, no matter who you ask, is you can't let Fajardo use his legs. You have to make him beat you out of the pocket. Even still after last year and 2nd and 18 and 80 plus yards to come down the field, even after all of that, there is still a belief among the football people in this league that Cody Fajardo can't beat you from the pocket. So what does Toronto have to do? Exactly that. You can't let Cody run around. The Argos have to handle the Alouettes kind of wide receiver and flanker screens. And, on the offensive side of the football, if you're the Toronto Argonauts, it's, all right, we know what Noel Thorpe wants to do. He wants to disguise, he wants to be exotic, and he wants to bring pressure. Now, if you flip on the film, Roddy, the Als basically have about 3 fronts, not much, and they only have about 2 blitzes that keep offenses off track. So I'm expecting, and I think this is a big part of this game, it doesn't look like Mustafa Johnson's going to go. So, that's a big loss for the Alouettes, and I think because of that, they're going to come out really aggressive on the defensive side of the football because they're also going to want to hit Chad Kelly. They want to make Kelly make some mistakes early, just like he did last year in the East Final.
It's funny. You must have some new intel there because an hour ago, Jim Barker was on this show thinking that Johnson would have a huge impact in the game. So that will be a big factor. That'll be a really big factor. And by the way, he was talking about the Argos lead the league in big plays given up on defense. I'm sitting there going, is Corey Mace that big of a hole on the Argos defense? Because they were leading the parade going into the playoffs last year on D. Arash, and now they're not. What's different? Corey Mace is gone.
Yeah, I think personnel is a part of it too. And, at the end of the game, and I haven't checked, Rod, to be honest with you. I don't know what Deshaun Amos's situation is coming into this game. Look, I think when you think about how the Alouettes want to win this game, Fletcher's a big part of what they do. It's so funny. There was this narrative and this idea about a year ago across pro football that the running back doesn't matter. And I think when you look at this East Final and this West Final, there is nothing more paramount than the run game, especially in the West Final. But I think if the Argos stop Fletcher, I think the Alouettes are going to struggle on the offensive side of the football. If you're the Argos, you have to avoid those explosives that you talk about. You just have to make sure that Montreal earns their points through long drives. And honestly, man, I'm not sure if the Alouettes are built to do that offensively. We're going to find out.
We tried in Dallas that theory that the running backs aren't important. Paying the quarterback and the receiver and nobody on defense. How's that working out? What else you
Derrick
got?
Henry thing going in Baltimore.
Right?
Yeah. Right. Look, I don't want to just keep talking about running backs, but when I look at that West Final, I think that the team that gets the most out of what they do offensively from their running backs, either Brady Oliveira in Winnipeg or the Armstead-Ouellette combo in Saskatchewan, I think that's going to tell the tale of the tape. Look, if you're the Riders, you have to stop Oliveira in the run and the pass game with the box players. Because if the Riders start overcommitting their defensive backs, if they get their secondary players, sneaking in, jumping in, etc., Zach's going to find Lawler and Dembski for explosives. So that to me is a big part of this. Can the Riders stop the run and the kind of short and intermediate stuff, just with their guys, with their front seven? On the flip side...
Yep.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No. Continue. No, because I was going to switch topics. I was going to switch teams. So you continue.
So, yeah, and that's where I was going with this. I think on the flip side, what does Winnipeg like to do a lot on defense? They like to show a three-man front. If the Riders can be successful running the ball against that three-man front, advantage Saskatchewan, big time. Because Winnipeg's had so much success dropping 9 guys. They take away those quick access throws that Trevor Harris likes to throw. And the thing about the Bombers' defense, even with Big Hill out of the mix, their linebackers just buzz all those short and intermediate routes. And they've been able to get pressure with 3. Like Jefferson remains a problem, even with Jeffcoat gone this year. So I think if Armstead and Ouellette have success, it's running the football. It's going to put a lot of pressure on Winnipeg's secondary. And I really think in this game, and I mean, this is very basic stuff, but I really think that if a team jumps out to a quick lead and can hold a quick lead for a while, it makes a big impact. For Winnipeg, especially because they need to get that crowd going and they need to get Sask in a silent count and all those kinds of things. And then obviously for the Riders, look, as a team, they can't fall behind early because it's a difficult scheme to throw against consistently. So I just think we're in for a treat in both ball games. And unless the turnover ratio becomes crazy, I don't think either game's going to be a blowout.
Hey, lots of buzz in the non-playoff teams, markets too, or teams that aren't playing this weekend. And I just wonder, I don't advocate for people to lose their jobs. That's never been my thing. But in BC, are we at a point in life where people don't pay for not accomplishing the goal? Because if I was Amar Doman, somebody's head would be on a stick for them not being in the Grey Cup and mismanaging, in my mind, the Nathan Rourke thing. But it's kind of...
how did they mismanage it? How did they mismanage it?
I would have played Vernon Adams the second he was available instead of leaving him on the bench because it destroyed their locker room, from what I can see.
Yeah, I think that there were so many people who thought that Nathan Rourke was going to be Folgers. I think they thought he was going to be instant coffee. He's going to come in and, remember the rhetoric out of Vancouver the day they signed? Even from people who worked for the BC Lions, it was basically get your Grey Cup tickets now.
Oh, of course.
There's no such thing. And while Doman, I hear what you're saying, whose decision ultimately was it to play Rourke, Rod? Did that come from ownership? Did that come from the GM seat, or did that come from the coach's seat? Or did that come from ownership, or did that come from ownership?
You're injecting logic, which in sports there isn't. I know for a fact in Edmonton, Rick Lawlisher walked into Chris Jones and said, you need to fire somebody, so pick somebody by the end of the day. That's how it works. So that's all that I'm saying.
This is where it gets interesting. You mentioned Edmonton. If Ed Hervey gets the GM job there, and I'm not saying he is, but I would, from what I've kind of understood that whole situation in Edmonton, they're interviewing around 5 or 6 different people for the GM job. G. Simon's among them. He's the acting/interim GM. I would suspect that Ryan Rigmaiden, Ted Kaya, et cetera, in the mix. for interviews. But if Ed gets the job, is Rick Campbell his head coach? That's what I wonder, kind of going into this off-season carousel.
So it might be not BC's decision, is what you're saying.
Well, I mean, I shrug my shoulders because we just don't know. We don't know how this is going to kind of play out.
All right. Sounds good. Well, listen, we'll do this hopefully live in person if you have the time next week at the Coupe de Grey.
Where are you set up?
Radio Row, baby. Right in the middle of the action at the convention center. So we'll be in touch.
I'll come find you.
I appreciate you, man. Enjoy the games. Thank you.